What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mount Mograph. I got a pretty special video for you guys today. This is going to be Summit 20 Low Poly Rocket Launch. And I'm going to be showing you for my 20th video. Well, it's really my 22nd video, but 20th Summit, I'm going to be showing you guys a bottom to top or top to bottom project. So this is going to be absolutely everything. It's going to be the animation, materials, and lighting. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. Drop me a comment or like this video if you think it turns out awesome. Yeah. So I think this animation looks really nice. It came out pretty much exactly as I wanted it to. I'll play it one more time for you guys. So yeah, that scene did not take me too long to put together. I'm really happy with the results, and I hope you guys are as well. And I'll do my best to walk you through step by step because we're at Mount Mograph, and yeah, I like making fun projects that turn out nice. No point showing you guys how to make something crappy. So let's go and grab Primitive in Cinema 4D, a cylinder, and let's scale this down a whole bunch. So I'm now going to maybe turn my height down a little bit, and that looks pretty good. Let's turn our height segments up. I'm going to turn it up to 4, and I'm going to turn my rotation segments to 17. We're just going to guess at some numbers today because that always seems to work out fine. So let's press C and make our object editable, and let's delete our Phong tag because we will be making a low poly style artwork piece today. So let's go and grab a point mode, and we're going to go and select the topmost point of our cylinder, and we're just going to drag this up, and this is going to become the top of our rocket. So I'm going to keep it not too, I don't want to bring it up too much because I want to keep a nice low poly style. So let's go into one of our side views, so F3 or F4 on your keyboard, and that looks pretty good right there. Let's go and grab a rectangle selection tool and unclick your only select visible elements, and we are going to select our polygon mode and drag over the top. Press K on your keyboard to bring up your knife tool, and let's make it a path, and let's add 2 cuts. So we're going to cut here, and we are going to add another cut. Actually, let's just do 1 cut, and let's see, go back into our perspective, and we added a nice cut over the top. I just wanted to add another one just so we have like it stays the same throughout. When we add a deformer to it, it's not going to look weird at the top. So anyway, let's go with our cylinder selected. Let's go into our deformers and grab a holding Alt select a bulge tool. Whoopsie, actually holding Shift select the bulge tool, and this is going to make it a child of our cylinder. And now I'm just going to turn my strength up. Looks like to 43, and I'm going to move it down a little bit just until it looks kind of smooth, and that is looking all right. I wish I could change it a little bit more, so I might go and grab my point tool and maybe just drop that top down a little bit just so it smooths out a little bit better. Nice, we have a nice barrel spaceship, so that looks pretty cool. So let's go and just make it, we're going to hide this in our view, so select this top traffic signal and double click it to make it red, and that is still going to affect our object, it just won't be in our scene. So now that we have our cylinder built, let's call this rocket body, and let's create our first material. So double click in your material manager, and let's go up into our colors. For a texture, let's select a Fresnel, and go in. I've been using Fresnels a lot lately. I think they always look really nice. So in our gradient, let's create a nice red color. So I'm going to select a lighter red and a little bit of a darker red over here. Now let's take our Fresnel and just drag it over into our environment and set it onto our texture. So turn on your environment, and we're immediately going to get a little bit of a brighter scene. Let's set our mix mode to add, and that's going to go crazy bright, but we're going to turn our brightness down to let's say 30%, and we're gonna have a nice glow. Let's go into our luminance channel, and we're gonna turn this up to 8, and that's gonna make it a little bit brighter, but not quite the same as the environment brightness because that would look pretty weird. So let's go into our specular, and I do like the specular highlights right here. I'm going to make it just a little bit wider, so I'm going to turn this up to 60, and as you can see, it kind of expanded a little bit more and gives us a nice kind of cartoony glow. So I really like this material. I think it looks great, and I'm going to call this rocket body. And I'm going to drag our rocket body onto our rocket body, and as you can see, it is starting to look nice. Well, I mean, there's nothing going on yet, but it will look nice. How about that? So let's go into one of our side views. I'm going to go into my right view, so F3 on your keyboard, and I'm going to draw, select a spline tool, a Bezier draw spline tool, whatever. I'm just blanked on what I was trying to say as I was saying it. Awkward. So anyway, let's go and just create a little like fin for our rocket. So I'm just going to make a nice and simple one, and we will edit in just a second. So I'm just going to draw the basic shape. Obviously, it's not going to look like a dolphin fin, and just with that selected, I am going to reposition it and make it look a little bit better, and maybe bring it in. And great. I'm relatively happy with that. And where is it? It's right over here. So now with our spline, I'm going to call this fin spline, and I'm going to go with my fin spline selected and select a NURB object, the extrude object. And in my extrude options, I'm going to go into my object properties, turn my Z axis, my Z movement down to 0, and my X movement I'm going to turn up to 5. And that's just going to add some thickness to our fin. Actually, let's turn it down to 4. 5 is a little bit too thick. Let's go into our caps and select a fillet cap. We're going to set our steps to 2, and we're going to set our radius to 1. And also add a fillet cap to the end side, and we're going to do the same exact settings. So do 2 and 1. And that looks pretty good. So that looks, it's not perfect actually. So I'm going to disable my spline, my extrude object for a second, go into my side, and maybe I can just fix this a little bit because I'm not as happy with it as I should be, and I want to make this video look nice. Okay, so yeah, that looks a lot better. Sorry, I get a little weird sometimes. I just like want things to be perfect, at least for my last couple projects. So anyway, let's go and duplicate our rocket body and drag with command held, drag it out and just to duplicate it. And I'm going to call this rocket fin for our color label. And I'm going to name or change my Fresnel to a blue, a light blue, and a darker, darker blue. So that looks good, and I'm going to drag my Fresnel over into my environment and leave all the other settings the same, and just drag that on there. So it's already starting to look kind of cool. Let's, with our extrude object selected, go into your Mograph module and select a cloner. In your cloner object, let's set our mode to radial, in our plane to XZ to put it on this axis. Turn your radius down to -2, and we're going to keep our count at 5. And so this is just going to put fins all over our rocket ship. So I'm going to call these fins, and I'm going to minimize this, keep our object manager nice and clean. Let's go into our primitives and select a tube, and we're going to just scale this down quite a bit and move it down to the bottom of our rocket. And just position this roughly there. And we're going to duplicate our rocket fin. I'm going to call this rocket booster. And let's create this as a nice yellow Fresnel. So I'm going to go in my gradient and select a lighter yellow, and come over here and select a little bit of a darker yellow. Go and drag my Fresnel over into my environment and drag this onto my booster. Now let's duplicate our booster. Actually, I'm going to call this booster 1. And so I'm going to duplicate this object and just scale this down a little bit. That looks good. And I'm going to put this as a child of my other booster just to keep things nice and clean. So let's actually scale this down a little bit more, and let's see. So this is already looking pretty cool, I think. It's very plasticky looking, which I think is a really nice looking effect. So before we get any farther in this video, let's go and create a floor object, and also put our booster, our fins, and our rocket body into a new null, and I'm just going to call this rocket. We're not quite finished with it yet, but just for positioning sake, so we don't have to move anything. So with our floor, what we're going to do is just double click somewhere in your object and create a new object, and I'm going to call this BG color. And in your color settings, let's go into our textures and select a gradient. In your gradient, we're going to set this to a 2D circular gradient, and we're going to set the inner one to a like peachy orange color, and our outer one to a little bit of a darker orange color. Go into your luminance channel and just drag that same gradient into your texture for your luminance and turn that on. I'm going to turn this to 2, and also drag your gradient into your environment and turn this down also to maybe like 1. So let's grab our BG color and put it on our floor. It's gonna probably look pretty funky. It does indeed look super funky. So what we're gonna do is select your texture tag of this, and we're gonna go and select our projection to frontal, and we're gonna turn our tile off. And let's see, so this is looking better. Now what we're going to do is go and grab a background object, so just put that on the scene and duplicate your material for your BG color onto your background holding command. Select your floor object, right click, go to Cinema 4D tags and select compositing, and just click this button right here, compositing background. So now we're going to have a nice seamless background and we'll be able to cast shadows still on it. So the scene is startlingly bright, but I think it looks cool. Maybe I'm going to turn my BG color, I never even turned my environment on, but what if I turn luminance off? Probably it's going to be too dark. Actually, yeah, so I'm just going to turn my luminance channel off. It was pretty bright before, and I did not like how that looked. So now that we have that set up, let's just drag our rocket up a little bit more. And we're going to now go into our primitives and select a sphere. So let's make this sphere a little bit smaller. Go into our sphere attributes and change our type to an isohedron, so we get this nice triangle shape. I'm going to turn my segments down to 10, and I'm going to unclick Render Perfect. And I'm going to press C on my keyboard to make it edible and delete my Fong tag. So now as you can see, we get all these little cuts, and this is what we're going to be using to generate our clouds, our little booster clouds or whatever you'd call them. So let's duplicate our rocket body, and I'm going to call this clouds or smoke. Smoke seems more logical for a rocket. So let's go into our color, go into your Fresnel settings, go into your gradient, and I'm going to select a white color. And on the other one, I'm going to select a little bit of a darker gray, but still light gray. So just drag your Fresnel over into your environment channel and place this smoke color onto our isohedron. So that looks pretty good. At this point of the video, also you should go and just turn on ambient occlusion in your render settings, and you'll see why a little bit later. So I'm going to scale down my sphere, which I'm actually going to name clouds. I'm going to put my floor and background object into a null together, and I'm just going to call this BG for background and keep our object manager nice and clean. And let's see. So now that we have our clouds, what we're going to do is go into our simulate menu, grab a particle emitter, and put this into our rocket null. And now we're going to rotate it negative 90 degrees. Basically, you're going to want the blue arrow to be facing down. And I'll just scale this down a little bit. And now if I press play, we should see particles emitting. So if I render this, there's not going to be anything happening, even though we can see the particles coming out right now. So what we're going to do is drag our cloud texture into our emitter, and now press play, and still nothing happens. So let's go into our emitter settings and go and click this option, show objects. So immediately we're going to get clouds all over the place, and let's scale these down because that is ridiculous. So just make it so it makes a little bit more sense. That looks much better. Go into your emitter settings and let's change a couple properties. First, what we're going to do is change our emitter type to a cone, and we're going to change our X size and our Y size down a little bit. As you can see, that's changing here. And I basically want it to be about the size of like maybe half of that little circle. And let's see if this is looking better. Oh, I think I accidentally scaled. Yeah, I did. I accidentally scaled up my clouds, so I'm gonna just change my size in my attribute manager. So 10 and 10, and render that. It's starting to look pretty cool. So I like this basic look. Whoa. So now what we're going to do is go into our emitter settings and go into your particle tab, and what we're going to do is turn our lifetime down. So let's turn it down to 1 second, and so now after 1 second has passed, the particles will disappear. Let's turn our timeline to 10 seconds as a duration, and let's go and turn our speed to let's say 2, and maybe I'll turn the variation up just a little bit on my lifetime, just so some particles do last a little bit longer than a second randomly. Whoa, that speed is way too slow. Maybe turn this up to 5. Okay, it looks like it's going back up to 30. And I'll turn my rotation up just a little bit to 15. My end scale I will turn up to 4, I'm guessing, and maybe like 50% on the variation. Alright, so this is starting to look pretty decent. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So now with that all set up, let's go and create, we'll go into our simulate tab, our particle tab, and select gravity. With our gravity, let's turn our acceleration to maybe 10. And what we're going to do is go into your emitter and go into include and just change this to include instead of exclude, and just drag your gravity in. And so now when I play this, it's going to very subtly actually also go into your emitter and change your stop emission to like 9, just so it doesn't cut off at 5 seconds. So we might want to turn this gravity up just a little bit more. I'm going to turn mine to 15 and see how that's looking. All right, I'm liking it. Let's go into our simulate particles and grab a turbulence effector. Go into your emitter, go into your include tab, and drop your turbulence effector above your gravity. And now go into your turbulence attributes, and we're going to change a couple settings. Let's turn our strength up a little bit, maybe to 5. We'll turn our scale up as well, because 0 is probably not going to do much of anything, if anything. And we'll turn our frequency down. So let's see what's happening. So as you can see, this turbulence is going to randomly affect our emitter a little bit, and we might want to make it so it makes more particles. So let's turn our birth rate to 40 and our birth rate renderer to 40 as well. So this is starting to look pretty cool. I'm going to turn my gravity up, I think. Let's turn it up to 17, I guess, for now. And now we're going to go into our emitter, and we're going to go into our, what else do we need to change here? I gotta kind of think for a second. Sorry, guys. I'm going to turn this actually up to 1.5. I want it to last just a little bit longer. That looks good. So let's right click our emitter and go into simulation, and we're going to turn on rigid body. So with that selected, we immediately want to, I promise, don't click anything yet, because this could totally F things up. Sorry for that. But anyway, go into your soft body, and actually mine was set as a default of something else before, and it totally ruined everything, and my computer got all locked up. So anyway, go to soft body, and we're going to change this to made of clones. So that should be all set. Let's turn our force to 2 and our follow rotation to 2, just so it stays on the path. Let's see what's happening. All right, so now it's going to fall a little quicker. Why did that fall? Oh, I see why. So anyway, what we're going to want to do is go into our collision, our inherit tags. We're going to want to say apply tag to children and turn this on to all and turn off self collisions. And there we go. So now that's starting to look pretty nice. We've got this nice emission coming out. Let's go into our force, and we're gonna turn drag up. Let's see, to like 7, and this is just gonna make it so the air is like thicker. So now it kind of comes out and swooshes out to the side. Swooshes. I'm sponsored by Nike apparently. Okay, so this is starting to look pretty good. What we're gonna have to do now is, I don't want, as you can see, the particles are actually going through our floor and they're not reacting to anything. So I added this rigid body tag not only so they fall faster, but so I can now go into my background and into my floor and right click that and go to simulation and click collider body. So I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to do? I think this might just work as is. Let's see. Yep. So as you can see, now the particles hit the floor and don't go through the floor. They still hit a little bit, but basically they're going to hit and just stay where they are, I guess. So that's cool. All right, now what else are we going to change here? Let's duplicate this collider body and onto our, oops, I gotta drop this down a little bit, onto our rocket body here. Let's actually just onto our whole rocket. No. I'm trying to think what I want to do. So I'm going to actually duplicate this collider onto my booster 1, and I'm going to, it's also going to apply to our booster 1.1, or our child booster. And in our collider options, I'm going to go to collision, inherit tag, apply tag children, and go to all. And so what this is going to do is, now when we have our, actually we'll just do it and I'll show you. So now let's go to the beginning of our timeline, and we're going to move our entire rocket null down, and just basically so it's sitting very close to the floor, if not on the floor. So just wait for it to intersect, drag it there, create a keyframe, and now just drag it forward to, I guess we'll go all the way to 10 seconds, and I will move it up in the air to like somewhere like there. So now we'll go back and see what happens. So it is looking pretty dang good for this much. It's moving really slow, but this looks pretty cool. I'm going to go into my emitter and go into my particle settings, and I'm going to actually turn my lifetime down to 1. I feel like that just stuck around a little bit too long. So that's looking pretty cool. Do a quick preview. Yeah, so this is definitely coming together. So now let's, basically our scene is built, but like I said, I told you guys we were going to make some lights, so why don't we make some lights? I'm going to go and select just a regular light right here, and I'm going to go and change my type to an area light, which simulates like a window or something. Go into my shadow and set it to area shadow, because that makes sense. And now I'm going to, this is important, rotate it. So I'd press E to see your move tool. You want your blue arrow to be facing down. So I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees, and as you can see, my blue arrow is facing down, because this is going to be very important. So let's turn our intensity down just a little bit. Our intensity down, I'm going to turn mine to 70. And let's see. So it's already starting to cast a shadow because we added our area shadows, and the scene is starting to look very nice. So what we're going to now do is tweak a couple more settings and get this looking awesome. So let's turn our outer radius up to start, and so it's going to be more of a wide area, as you can see, cover more of our scene. And let's go into our sample settings, and we're going to turn this up a little bit because it's going to smooth out uneven light dispersion when we add this next effect. So under a fall off, let's add inverse square clamped, and since our samples are higher, it's actually going to not look like a couple different light sources. It's going to look like one independent one. So now on your light, you can see we have a circle, and that is our fall off. So I'll do a quick preview, and as you can see, it's starting to look really, really nice, as you can see. I told you guys I was going to make something awesome today. Man, I'm tooting my own horn over here. But anyway, I do think it looks cool. So let's turn our radius decay up to 1,000. I clicked 100. I was like, why did the scene go dark? Let's turn it up to 1,000. And maybe move this up. And we're going to want our fall off to be right at the floor. Maybe even a little under the floor will look good. And let's go into, what else are we going to want to change here? Z direction only. So it's only casting light down on the Z axis, which is our blue arrow. We don't need it casting anywhere else. And that's starting to look pretty good. Let's continue tweaking some settings. We'll go over into our visibility and let's change our outer distance. We'll just turn this up a little bit. And this is our fall off distance. I'm going to turn this up to like 800-ish. Yeah, this is all really subtle changes, but this is what's going to make a very nice effect, as I've learned over lots of time. So anyway, let's go into our, where do we want to go to now? What did we just change? We changed our outer distance. Let's change our sample distance. And since we're using a volumetric light, we're going to want to smooth out our shadows. So if we turn our sample distance up, I'm going to turn it to 42-ish or so. This is going to start smoothing out some light. As you saw before, it was a little grainy down here. It's looking a little better. So now let's go over into our shadow settings, and we're going to turn our accuracy. This is actually a trick. So you'd think accuracy, the higher it is, the more accurate your shadows will be. Well, it actually works opposite. Your accuracy, you can either turn up your accuracy and hope for the best, or you can turn your maximum samples up and just know you're getting the best. So the only funny part is if your accuracy is really high, your maximum samples can't be really high. So all I'm going to do is just change my accuracy down to 1. I'm going to also turn my minimum samples down to, I don't really care, so I'm going to change them to 3. And I'm going to turn my maximum samples up to, let's say like 340. And so this is what is going to make the most difference. I don't know if you guys are able to tell on the screen, but it's really starting to look nice. You're starting to see a lot more details in our animation, from these subtle little shadows down here to under here. It's just picking up everything. And so this is, you got to spend some time with the lights. That's really what makes the scene. So let's add another light to the scene and make it look just even a little bit better, because we can. So let's create an infinite light, and we're going to mimic like it's sun. So I'm actually going to call this sun, and it's going to be a cartoony sun, FYI, because we have a cartoony scene. So let's go into our general settings, and we'll turn our shadow on, and we're going to turn our shadow to area, and let's really crank up this area light. So I'm going to turn it up to 150, and this is going to start creating some hard shadows on stuff. So our scene is starting to look too bright, but we'll tweak that a little bit more in a second. So let's go and actually turn our color. We're going to change our color from white to like an orangey color. Match our scene, match our background and stuff. So let's see. All right, so now we're starting to get a kind of like a ring of light, if you can tell. So if before I had it on white and do a render, and it doesn't have the same pop. So if I do use the light, well, here, let me do that again. Sorry. So if I do use this light, you can see it now has a very smooth kind of glossy look, because I'm matching the environment scene, the environment's light. So that's definitely a little tip that you guys should make use of in your own stuff. And let's go over into our visibility tab. And we're going to maybe just turn our outer distance up a little bit, so it is just a little bit brighter. So now we're starting to get a really nice yellow glossy look. I think it's looking pretty good. Let's go into our shadow settings, and we're going to tweak this just like we did for our other settings. So remember, your accuracy is not what changes how good something looks, which is kind of silly. Let's just turn this down to 1 like we did before. Our minimum sample is to 3, and we'll turn this up to 280. So now let's do a quick preview. We're really starting to get a nice glossy look to this whole scene. Okay, so like before, we'll press E on our keyboard, and we gotta remember that, do you see how that works? So this was actually not even facing the scene, and you'll really see what happens when we turn it. So basically, your sun, since this is an infinite light, it's only going to be pointing on the Z-axis. So if I tilt this, as you can see, our scene brightens up. So let's just put it to 90 degrees and see what it's doing. So this is really kind of like blowing up our scene. It's almost too much. It looks kind of cool. We're getting really hard shadows, but let's let's just put this somewhere else in the scene. I think this is not going to work for us. So I'm going to want this to be pointed at our, man, this is a stupid view. So let's just think. The size of this object is relative to what we want to be the sun. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and just mess around with my coordinates over here until I get something that looks pretty good. So maybe on my X, I want to move it a little bit closer. I feel like, try to think. So I'm trying to think of like, you have your horizon maybe here, like where would the sun be? So I'm going to put it like here, lift it up more in the sky. Let's go to, is that getting too crazy? Might be getting too crazy. We'll just see. No, I'll turn it to there. Z will move it back a little bit. So I'm just going to pretend the sun's coming from like down towards it. So we're going to get a shadow cast over on this side here. Now let's actually rotate our light towards our scene. I just got to find the right thing to change. There we go. So I need to turn this to 109 maybe. Or anything. Oh, this is not doing anything important. All right, let's see how this is looking. So yeah, lights are fun. They're kind of crazy, but it's worth knowing the settings, as you can see. Like, check that out. That looks sick. Dang, that one actually, I think this render might have come out better than my previous one that I did before this video. So yeah, there's a little mess up at the beginning, but you guys can mess around with the settings, and there we go. So that's looking pretty awesome. So yeah, I definitely spent more time walking you guys through the materials and the lights for the scene. I really hope you guys make use of this and find something awesome about this video. Yeah, drop me a comment. Please leave a like on this video. I just spent a lot of time putting this one together for you guys. I hope you like it, and I'd love to hear from you guys and see what you guys make. So that's about it for today. This was Matt from Mograph. Thanks for checking out my channel and watching Summit 20 low poly rocket blast off, or whatever the heck I called it. So yep, that's about it for today. Get your learn on, guys. Peace out.